friends, how are you doing today? So my name is Ness, or Inversion Ness on Instagram if you don't already know. This is my body, so don't do anything that doesn't feel safe in your body. And everything that I'm saying is just a recommendation, so be safe, have fun. So today's video is showing you how I learned to headstand. It was the first inversion that I had learned when I started all of these shenanigans. So honestly, I was just watching people online and I was just trying to emulate what I was seeing. So I saw head, hands sort of situation. What I learned as I was going along was that what we want is arms to be forearm distance apart from one another, and then we're holding our head in our hands. Now our head, although it's a headstand, isn't what's supporting us. Our arms and our base is what's supporting us. So when going into a headstand, it's really important to keep in mind that we don't want a ton of pressure on the head. So to find that proper distance between the arms, what you'll do is you'll just grab opposite elbows. You can place your hands down onto the ground, and then you can bring your hands to touch. Something I noticed was that anytime I would go up, a lot of times just the weight of my body would allow my elbows to lean out or shift out just a little bit. So as I always measure, I now walk my hands in about an inch. And then I know that if my arms wean out, I won't be going too far out. The problem with weaning the elbows out is that we start to lose all of that activation in our back and we start to dump in places that we don't want to. So your head is cradled in your hands. However, a portion of your head will be on the mat, and that part of your head should be that flattest portion. So if you're running your hand along your head, you'll start to feel that curvature along this back portion. So where you want the mat to be is right before then, on that flattest part. What that will be doing for you is creating a stack between the shoulders and the head so that the spine is neutral. This stacking will allow for minimal cause of injury. While we're talking about stacking, once we get that solid base on the ground, the next thing to stack on top of our head and our shoulders is our hips. Let's get to it. So we're going to start this one hard one. Starting on our shins, we're just going to bring those hands down to the mat. We're going to do that same thing where we'll measure. So we're going to bring our hands to our elbows at that right width, bring our hands to touch, interlock those fingers. Remember, I like to bring my arm in just about an inch, my preference, not everybody's. And then you're going to start to cradle your head. Now remember what I said, not a lot of pressure is in the head. It's really just working as a stabilizing point. So once we're here and we feel stable, I want you to play with pushing the ground away. So we don't push the ground away. Lots of weight is in the head. We dump in the shoulders. All of these things can cause for injury because we're allowing other things to work harder because we're not activating all of the muscles in our body that are required. So once we're solid here in this base, what you're going to do is just lift the knees up and start to walk the feet forward. Now what we want to be creating is a stack, remember, between our head, our shoulders, and our hips. So you're just going to play with walking the hips forward and back until this feels really comfortable. Remember, we're pushing the ground away while we're doing this. Once this starts to become comfortable, what you can do is lift one foot. See how that feels. Try the other one. Always try the other one. Maybe you do little switches. Eventually, maybe you lift one, both. The best thing is if you start to lose control, the best place to start is a tuck because you can always tuck back down. A couple tips or things that you can remember. If this feels rough on the top of your head, I remember it was for me in the beginning, wear a hat, double up your mat or fold your mat in half. Carpets are great because they're softer than hard floor, of course. If trying in front of the middle of the room seems too scary to start, You can always go up against a wall or even put a bunch of pillows behind you so that you know if you were to fall, you've got some cushion. When practicing inversions or going upside down, you always want to remember to test with control and not with momentum. So you never want to vault yourself up into a headstand, especially because you can cause a lot of injury that way when you don't have the control to stabilize yourself. Another variation of headstand is a tripod headstand. In my personal opinion, I think this is the next headstand as far as difficulty. I felt like it required a lot more arm strength for me in the beginning, as well as core strength to keep myself stable without feeling like I was going to hurt myself. For tripod, there's a few things that you'll want to keep in mind. The same way with chaturanga, that we want to keep the elbows in and at that 90-degree angle, is the same for tripod. So what you'll want to do is same thing, forearms distance apart, so that you know where your hands are placed. This time you'll place your hands about in front of the knees. Okay. From here, we're just going to place our head down onto the mat wherever it meets. From here, you really want to ground down into the mat. This time, there's going to be more pressure on the head. You can begin by lifting the hips, and we want that same stack between the shoulders, the head, and the hips. Here, you can play with one leg and another, keeping those elbows wrapped in. Another way to get some air time is to give yourself a little bit of an assist by starting in a crow headstand. From here, you'll really have to press up with the core and the arms and the hands to get yourself up. A couple of things to remember. As I realize I've been doing this whole thing without my AirPods in, which means audio is probably going to be shit. Yay! Okay, a few things to remember. We're going with it. The bronchitis has beat me.